This is a call of meeting order for Wednesday, 24 June 2020 at 4:04 p.m. Confirming member access. As a preliminary matter, this is Robert Holland, the Shrewsbury Electric and Cable Operations SELCO Commission Chairperson. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tony Trippi.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Maria Lemieux.
Yes.
Mike Ruffolo.
Yes.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Michael Hale, SELCO General Manager.
Yes.
Christopher Roy, incoming SELCO General Manager.
Yes.
Kathy Reba, Administrative Assistant.
Yes.
Mark Serra, I know you're the man behind the curtain, but check in. Joel Malabard, our Manager of Cable Ops.
Yes.
Jackie Pratt, Marketing Manager.
I'm here.
John Malabar, Systems Engineer.
I'm here.
John Laverty, Manager of Electrical Operations.
Here.
Ralph Iacarino, the Electric Systems Manager.
Here.
Mike Quidadamo, Finance.
Yes.
John Covey, CIO.
Present, sir.
All right. Greg Honorato, Manager of Tech Support. I didn't see Greg check in, so. Stacy Soder, our SELCO Accounting Coordinator.
Yeah.
And then we have some presenters. We have Jim Goulet of Goulet, Silvidio and Associates CPA, and Adam Schmierzer of the same CPA outfit. Both of you gentlemen are on board?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Okay, and then from Matrix Design, we have Zach McGid and Matt Dunn from Equipment. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Introduction remote meeting. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the SELCO Commission is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020 due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meetings law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the SELCO Commission is convened by Google Meet. As posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join in viewing. Interested parties may use www.shrewsburymediaconnections.org. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and that you take care not to screen share your computer unless asked by the chairman or the staff person. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting business ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each board member or staff member who has the lead role for this particular item or guest speaker associated with the item on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members first and then to staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or questions. I will then call upon members to offer a motion and then a second. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by your speaking or background noise. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For others in attendance that are expected to present, please hold until your name is called to present. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by your speaking or background noise. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. After your presentation, members of the board committee will be given the opportunity to ask questions. For any responses, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to enter or engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. To start with this afternoon, I would like to make note of the fact that Christopher Roy, the new SELCO General Manager, is joining us today. Mr. Roy will inherit the reins on Monday, 20 July 2020 from Michael Hale. This is Michael's last scheduled SELCO commissioning meeting, so I hope it will be a memorable one for him. Michael has been a public servant for 32 years and in town as assistant town manager under Mr. Richard Carney and Mr. Dan Morgado, and for the past 10 years has ably served as the general manager of SELCO. During his tenure, he oversaw the installation of the town's solar array atop the landfill on Hartford Turnpike, the installation of peak shaving generators, the upgrade of electrical transmission lines throughout the town, the building of new electrical substation at Centec Boulevard, the putting in place of the groundwork for the upcoming fiber to the home and automated meter reading initiatives, and most recently skillfully ensured our current internet infrastructure was able to support the increased work from home demands set upon us by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. With that said, Michael, it's 4:10, and there's some other folks I think that may have joined the meeting and that may want to say something. So I guess the senior person present afloat may be, Kristen, who do we got that's senior to you? Do we have the town manager or the Board of Selectmen?
We certainly have the town manager. We also have the newly appointed chairwoman of the Board of Selectmen on the line.
Okay, why don't the newly selected chair wish to make some introductory remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Holland. I appreciate the opportunity to thank Mr. Hale for his tenure within the town, not just with SELCO, but in his role in municipal government. He has certainly left his mark on the community, and I know that I myself speak for the rest of the Board of Selectmen when I say that we are so grateful for all of the innovation, all of the leadership, the forward thinking, the many ways in which he looked ahead to the future of what we were going to need here as we grew as a community and found a way to make that happen. I know that I speak for all of us when I say that SELCO is a point of pride here in Shrewsbury. When all of our neighbors are without power, we smugly say, we're fine, we have SELCO. And that's because of Michael's leadership and the tone he set within the organization. And for that, we are grateful. And we wish him the very best in his retirement.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, woman, or Madam Chair, we'll go with that. Kristen, does Kevin Mizikar, do you care to make a statement?
Sure. Mike, I'm pissed. I mean, I know I don't normally say that at a meeting, but I've certainly enjoyed my time with you and the conversations on the impromptu basis about everything important and nothing in the same time in your office. It's been wonderful. And thanks for your keen insight and really allowing me to get up to speed. I think years faster than I would have been without your knowledge. And I'm not going to stop calling you just because I'm pissed at you, but I am, and I certainly appreciate all the help that you've given me. It's been so great, and you certainly enjoy it. Local government over the time since you've started till now has changed so dramatically, and you're clearly made all the right moves throughout your career on the decisions that you pursued and those that you didn't, that we've spoken about, and it's put you in a perfect spot to pursue other options at this point in time. I wish you nothing but the best.
Well said. I note that just looking, Kristen, is there anything you'd like to say?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to invite us to your SELCO Commission meeting. Just wanted to wish Michael well. I met him my first interview with the town of Shrewsbury almost 10 years ago now, and he put the faith to have a voice in hiring me for the town of Shrewsbury. I'm sitting in his former office now, which will always be Michael's office, I think, and a wonderful true testament of our spiritual advisor here at the town of Shrewsbury. And thank you for all you've brought, your knowledge and for the town. And it's been great to get to know you more. And thank you to Vanessa, your wife, as well. She's been a huge asset to my learning. So you'll be sorely missed. We certainly know where you live, and will not hesitate to give you a call if needed. So congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. We appreciate all you've done.
Thank you very much, Kristen. I note another selectman is on board there, Mr. Mo DiPaolo. Do you care to wish to say anything, Mo?
Thank you, Bob. Michael, congratulations. I think you're going to enjoy retirement. Fortunately for you, you got to do it 10 years earlier than me. But, I remember when we almost lost you to another town to be the town administrator. And I have to say, we were very happy that you decided to stay. You certainly left your mark on the town, and certainly left your mark on SELCO, and have been very forward thinking since you've been in there, and especially on the cable system and the internet backbone that we installed. So congratulations. I wish you the best, and hopefully we'll see you around town. Maybe you can stop up Dunkin' Donuts and have a coffee with us in the morning now.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Hey, there's a bunch of department heads who I see unlisted. I'm just going to go down, and each wants to say, farewell, or, get out of here, or whatever, Michael. So I'll at least give them the chance, because they did take the time to check in. First would be Angela Snell.
Hi, Michael. I just wanted to thank you for all your help over the years. We've had a great 18 and a half years working together. We got to work on the Growing Center Expand project, and you were integral in the original building committee. And you got to serve as Parks and Recreation acting director one summer and run the 4th of July. So I appreciate everything you did for Parks and Recreation. And I really appreciate your support and all the advice you've given me over the years. And I know I'll see you around town, and best of luck.
Great. Thanks, Angela. Before he gets called out on any sort of fire, we have the fire chief, I believe, Mr. Vona.
Yes, Michael, congratulations. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but you and I go back about 27 years now, when you were assistant town manager, and we sat on the opposite sides of the table for union negotiations for about 8 years, and we weren't always on the same page on everything. But I did get to work with you for about 8 years, you and Dan, with the Insurance Advisory Committee and the whole Western Suburban Health Group. And I think the town needs to realize that, Michael, you were the most important person, I think, involved with that really has, put in the time and really made the connection for us to, maintain really strong healthcare, because there were a lot of crisis years with healthcare. So I really appreciate that. I'm a little disappointed that you could not fix the cable industry, but I don't think anyone could do that. But I wish you luck, and you're going to get your time off now, right in time for the Boston Red Sox 60-game schedule.
Thanks, Chief.
Great working with you, Mike.
Thank you.
And DPW, Jeff Howland.
Happy retirement, Mike. Obviously, it's been a pleasure working with you, both as the town engineer and now as DPW director. DPW and SELCO are an integral part of the infrastructures of the town. And I think we have forged a very good relationship moving forward. And I wish you the best of luck in your retirement, and don't be a stranger to DPW. And I do want to say, Chris, welcome aboard, and we hope we get able to continue the relationship that we have, that Mike and I have set forth moving forward.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well, I think that handles the folks that were not necessarily on the agenda, but wanted to just check in with you, Michael. Is there anything you want to say before they finally check out?
I thought the chief instigator was on the call, Mrs. Thompson. I thought I saw her pop up. She's at loss for words.
Well, I didn't see your name there. Is Mrs. Mary, are you on there?
Yes, I am. I'm the A team.
There you go. I'm sorry. Please.
That's quite all right.
Sure, you must have something to say about this guy.
Yeah, nothing I can say in public. No, I'm just kidding. No, we've had a wonderful 30+ years working together. Congratulations, Mike. I'm very happy for you. And with the day you got the job down at the light department, if you remember what I said, I was thrilled for you. I was a little bitter about the group 4 thing because there are some of us that could benefit from that. But I think it's great. And I'll see you at the 99 on Friday nights in Yarmouth.
Thank you.
Didn't you recalculate his retirement? He's got to do another year or two?
Yeah.
No? I guess-
88.
Okay, thank you very much. Michael, I guess the floor is yours now. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you, Bob. This was quite unexpected, and I apologize to our guests from Goulet Salvideo and Matrix Group for this little farewell part of the agenda that was unplanned and unscripted. But I guess my professor at Boston University said it best, that brevity is the soul of wit. So I often think that and keep my words short and sweet and to the point. But really, you really can't, not many people today stay 32 years with one organization. It just doesn't work that way anymore in this world, in the workplace at least. But I think it's a testament to the quality of the people that the town has, the quality of the structure of the government, and the quality of the elected and appointed officials on the various boards in this community. It makes a very good place to work for, and one that sets a standard when you hear from your colleagues in other communities, why would I leave? So I think it's a true testament that this is a great place to work. And the 32 years went by very fast. And Bob, I wish you put this at the end of the meeting because you shouldn't make me tear up at the beginning of a meeting. So with that, I would just like to say thank you to the commission, the selectmen, all the SELCO managers, all the SELCO employees, and all the town employees, and all the residents. It's been a great ride.
Hey, but before we let him go, Michael, and before you, again, my leadership is going to be really lacking when you leave. But I noticed that the Madam Librarian is on here. Priya, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Thank you.
Katya, sorry.
I'm fortunate because Michael is still going to be on the Shrewsbury Public Library Foundation. So I'm looking forward to working with him on that. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Priya.
And I think I may be missing somebody else, like maybe the chief of police.
He's even a man of fewer words than I, so I'd be surprised.
Okay. Who else am I missing, Kristen? Everybody that had a say, want to say, that from the town and from the Board of Selectmen?
I think I'm seeing everybody from the town side. Mr. Covey blends the line, so I'm not sure if he's one of the SELCO managers. So I saw a phone number. I thought it was Chief Hester, but maybe I was incorrect.
No, that's some of our briefers. Okay, well, thank you very much for the town employees for checking in with us and the Board of Selectmen. Really appreciate the help of Kristen to help us get this organized along with Kathy. Just fantastic. Thank you so much. And we'll continue on with the regular meeting using Michael's words of brevity, but we'll go into the briefings on our accounting.
Good luck, Michael.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, now to our real the agenda today. The actual first item that we have on it is an audit presentation by Goulet Salvideo and Associates. And Jim, are you going to lead us in this? Jim, yeah, you're muted. You have to hit the little speaker on your photo on your screen. Hey, Jim, now you're unmuted. Go ahead. Still can't hear you. No. Okay. Hey, Adam.
Yes.
We can't hear Jim. I think Jim can hear us, but we're not getting him on. He may want to just go off and come back on.
Okay.
Can I suggest one thing, Bob?
Yep.
Maybe we have Matrix go and Adam and Jim work out their technological issues, leave the call and come back on, and they'll be second.
Okay. So then the next item on the agenda was to have a Phase 1 fiber to the premises FTTP deployment presentation by Matrix. So I will turn the floor over to those representatives, Zach and Matt. Zach, you're muted, and Matt's going to, and is Matt going to?
Yeah,
certainly. And you have slides you want to show, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I do. We have a slide presentation we'd like to show. So
Okay.
I'm going to present.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Can everyone see my page?
I can, so I'm going to say yes for everyone.
Okay. Sorry about that. Little technical difficulties using a little bit different of a system here. Good afternoon. I'd like to take a moment to thank the opportunity to work with SELCO and Mike and his team. It's been a pleasure working with everybody. We really enjoyed it. So this is going to be a fiber to the premise network upgrade project overview. So we'll run through the slides here. Zach, feel free to enter in at any point in time. I think Zach's going to give us the background on Matrix and our company.
So Matrix, just to get everyone up to speed on quick experience bearing all the sales info, we're privately owned and operated from East Hanover, New Jersey. We've been in business in the telecommunications and security field for over 26 years. Our sister/parent company, Millennium Communications Group, they're the ones who do all the construction. So we have that unique ability to see both sides of it. So we can take a lot of that experience into mind during this design and planning process. And given our broad range of services, we have that unique perspective on creating solutions, given our partnership with other industry leaders. Here we list out our services. We'll spare you the details of reading these one by one, but we just wanted to give some breadth and depth to some of the types of projects that we've worked on in this industry.
So touching base on how much we have vested here with SELCO, this is an overview. Since Matrix began working side by side with SELCO, the comprehensive time invested to develop this project has been pretty significant, as shown in the slide. The project history started from 2018 strategic plan. SELCO identified and analyzed potential network upgrade options with the primary objective to ensure the continued and future success of SELCO. Although multiple network option upgrade methods were considered, fiber to the premise deployment was found to have the highest return on investment and lowest total cost of ownership, including but not limited to the following factors. SELCO has an existing communications plan, both aerial and underground pathways, and this can be utilized to deploy fiber cable, limiting the need for expensive and timely make-ready costs. Gigabyte passive optical networks, GPONs, do not require active power feeds in the field. That limits the associated maintenance and operational costs of other network types. GPON deployments maximize the capacity of prospective subscribers by utilizing up to a 1x64 splitter, limiting the need for large fiber count cable to be installed and decreasing the installation and maintenance costs. The Calix Experience Management Services reduce truck rolls by 50% by leveraging NetFlow and Wi-Fi analytics. And the increased upstream bandwidth creates potential increase in business subscribers, both in direct service and middle mile fiber leasing opportunities, which I think that you've experienced currently with Sterling. So the next three slides are going to be the overview of the phases of this project. There will be three major phases. Phase 1 here is highlighted in pink. I apologize, there's a little delay on my screen.
So the phase 1 is mostly along the the eastern border of Lake Quinsigamond, going north and then back down to Main Street.
Correct. This ring here. Phase 2 is highlighted in green here in the central region. I apologize, my computer is lagging. This is phase 3, highlighted in blue in the southern section.
What it really looks like for me is phase 1 is more on the outer, the northeast, northwest section of the town that comes up along the lake and goes up to the northern side up by 290, and then the second side goes up to Main Street and to the center of town, and the third and final phase is down basically south of 9.
That's
Michael.
correct, Bob. And SELCO has already built a couple of the areas on the southwest quadrant already itself.
Mm-hmm.
So the overall project was broken down into these phases, and each phase was broken down according to major milestones into 3 major subphases. Subphase A provides a working system of fiber from the cable operations equipment, 15 Parker Road, to each of the distribution cabinets located within the predetermined nodes. Subphase B, that will bring the working fiber system to each customer's structure. Subphase C will enable SELCO to bring service into the customer's home and activate their services. That would be their provisioning phase. So the next slide represents the workflow model that we used for the project from beginning to completion on all 3 phases. The following slides will support each one of the cascading categories listed. So our project launch flowchart here. This flowchart represents the interconnected tasks that both SELCO and Matrix. We've had the pleasure of working with SELCO's team over the past 9 months to develop a sound process for the design and the construction of this project. And you can see the tasks separated and how they flow. This next slide is one of the many examples of the level of specification that's been defined throughout the network design. It allows the standardized process and procedures to be followed by a single or multiple contractors, and also for the operations team following. This increases network reliability, decreases contractor bid pricing through confidence of expectations as well, so that everybody knows what the standards are. So following this process, this next slide shows an image of the process of defining construction standards for the identification of specific material preferences and the associated quantities. By moving through this process, we're able to procure materials directly from the manufacturers and distributors, thus eliminating the costly contractor markup. An additional benefit of this process is the ability to maintain control of potential project schedule delays by anticipating material delivery in advance. Furthermore, having the materials shipped directly to the awarded contractors of each subphase reduces the cost of operations necessary to warehouse and distribute these materials. This next image is of the electronic dashboard that was used for the bidding process of the invitation for bids in phase 1A. However, it's the same type of electronic portal that we've identified to use to collect relevant documentation from contractors as they complete work in the field. Daily progress can be quantified in one location and updated in real time using this method that reduces operational management costs during and following construction by data mapping. That's my screen. So this next image is just a real-time example of phase 1B and A. This image is of the level of detail used for mapping and recording the results of the network. So test results will be entered into each port and each fiber that's assigned for each structure. and by adding new subscribers locally from a field cabinet, along with balancing the network traffic from one single point. So as previously mentioned, contractors would be responsible to fill out daily update forms that automatically post to the electronic dashboard for real-time progress updates. This is just an example of the form, the structure that can be fully customized to meet the needs of SELCO. So moving through the project management process at SELCO to launch the project, our combined efforts we used to develop a cost estimate during which the following assumptions were made. An even distribution of material and labor was calculated for phases 2 and 3, as the design of these phases has not yet been completed. Take rates are evenly distributed amongst the 3 phases, and industry average production rates based on Millennium and SELCO historical data of construction projects with vastly similar scopes of work. So an aerial plant overlash, underground rod and ropes, underground fiber installations, fiber cable prep and splicing, and bidirectional testing. We assumed an even distribution of drop cable installation costs and provisioning service costs, and we identified the best methods for customer provisioning through policies, material, and future service troubleshooting. The contingency of overall cost estimate was around 15%, and the material contingency range was between 5 and 20%. And the reason why of that range was dependent upon the quantities, the confidence of quantities. So overall, SELCO's fiber to the premise phase 1 project metrics consisted of 97 miles of new fiber build. There's 4,869 total structures passed. 15% average node on demand growth directly from the cabinet, patching, and premise drop cable installation, which I'll explain a little bit in further detail later on. 51% of future subscriber expansion utilizing minimum splicing deployment in the field, and utilizing the existing strand infrastructure and conduit pathways, as we mentioned, reduces the make ready. There's 23 total nodes in phase 1. The field deployed GPON cabinet design localizes your deployment from each individual location based on the needs of those nodes. The existing SELCO subscriptions average 83% take rate of all structures passed, and the construction standards identified for all 3 phases. So all 3 phases will have the same standards. The centralized contractor reporting format with real-time updates. It also keeps network changes current in the future. So that can remain with operations after construction. So the following workflow was used in conjunction with the project management workflow to develop the following estimations. So SELCO's overall goals and objectives were identified of standards, construction, splicing, testing, and materials, the deployment and operational function controls, the budget and resource control procedures, reporting and network control procedures, and the administrative resources which. Matrix then identified and coordinated with the SELCO team to create an overall distribution design and cabinet deployment locations. Structure quantities were taken, the number of homes, number of businesses, number of poles, fiber lengths, etc., that were passed. An implementation plan, the hardware specifications led into an actual bill of materials, quantities, manufacturer quotes, and samples for approval. Budget and resource control through standard documents and the information for bid draft. We used historical labor pricing comparisons, both in industry and historical data from hiring outside contractors. Assumptions of contractor production levels, both throughout the industry and historical rates, regional rates, as a matter of fact. Distribution methods of average for unknown quantities for phases 2 and 3. So we applied those metrics across the board. So this is a sample design of the first process of the workflow. So we identified the distribution cabinets for each one of the nodes selected in phase one, and they're shown in this slide here. These cabinets are the consolidation point from the structure to SELCO's equipment at 15 Parker Road. 32 homes signals can be sent back there on one single fiber. So it's a consolidation point from the field back to their head end, back to your head end at 15 Parker Road. New subscribers can be added from this point from the field using basic home installation methods, a patch cord and a tablet, decreasing operational costs for future expansion directly from the cabinet. And these locations here, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor or not, but this would be one cabinet location that was identified. This would be the second, and this is a third in an overlapping node. So once we identified the location and the fiber pathways were designed, we used a comprehensive quantitative data collection. And an example what's shown here in this slide, this is only a sample of some of the nodes. All of the nodes were actually counted for. So the slide here shows the example of the cascading effects of the quantitative data collection and its benefits in the development of a bill of materials, which we previously mentioned. So using the known quantities of the materials and along with SELCO, the matrix teams worked together and we analyzed the historical data, the labor costs, and applied them to the quantities, as you can see in this example. And again, the data is so comprehensive that I had to limit some of the columns here, but I think you can get the gist of some of this. This slide just shows a summary of totals from the previously identified historical labor cost data. Assumed production rates are noted in the A column on each one of these. The example of the scope of work applied to this estimate, and thus giving SELCO a regionally specific baseline for their project budget. Final slide is a summary of totals from all previous data collection to develop an overall cost estimate for the network fiber to the premise upgrade project. This is inclusive of all equipment, material, labor, and such that was identified as a summary.
Bob? Bob?
Yep. Yes.
Michael Hale. Thank you, Matt. That was a great presentation. What I'd like to do is just before there are questions, and we'll leave 10 minutes for questions, or as long as you want. But I work with these guys weekly and get into the weeds with them, and some of the presentation was in the weeds. I'm getting used to the nomenclature that they use. Joelle and the field team are very familiar, and the head end staff are far more familiar than I with the nomenclature. But I'd like to just simplify the project into a high level overview. The town will be converted from a DOCSIS plant to a fiber to the premise or fiber to the home. The terms are used interchangeably over the period of 3 to 5 years. What Matrix has done is broken this down into 3 sections of town. Each of the sections has 3 separate phases. Phase A is the general labor or the primary distribution fibers in each of the geographic regions. Phase B takes that from cabinets that will be on utility poles and provides a drop to each of the dwellings, both business and residential dwellings. And phase C is the actual connection from that drop to the home to inside the home to the device that would be what now is a modem, will be a fiber device known as an ONT. So it's really 3 sections of town, 3 phases in each section, some overlap in the schedule, 3 to 5 years. $30 to $32 million in costs. About 18 million we anticipate using in cash, and 12 to 14 million from borrowing. Hopefully the town meeting will approve when there is a town meeting. So that's a high level overview.
Okay, Michael, one of the things, when you say 12 million from the town meeting, all we're trying to do from town meeting is get authorization to use their loan guarantee. Right? We are actually going to pay the $12 million out of SELCO. That town is not going to incur that cost, correct?
Thank you for that clarification. All borne by broadband ratepayers and not taxpayers.
Okay. I just have a couple of questions in general, and whomever feels free to field them, is to how soon that we get started, can we get customers as we go into these different phases, can we get them hooked up and actually on the fiber? In other words, do we have to do the whole phase one for the entire section of town and then bring people on, or as we go, can we bring them on as we go? And I don't know if I'm being completely succinct on that question, but that's what I think that people, as they see fiber going up on a pole and going down their street, they're going to want to know when they can hook in.
That's a great question. So these three major subphases will actually be staggered up upon one another. So as nodes get completed in phase 1A, phase 1B will commence in a lag time, and phase 1C will lag in behind it. So no, not all three phases have to be completed in order to get people up and running on what would be phase 1C, call it. The estimated time to start phase 1A or to commence phase 1A would be sometime in mid-July. And following from that, we're looking at the end of August for phase 1A to be completed. Following with phase 1B somewhere in mid-August to commence, which is the largest of all the phases of construction. And that would be roughly estimated as a 6-month period. Now, in that 6-month period, nodes will be, should be handed over in order of how their proximity to 15 Parker Road, so that we can make sure that we can prove the circuits in and out, and we don't have to disrupt that service at the time of construction. So you're looking at a 6-month lag time. So I would call about 3 months, you would have your first node available. So I would say sometime in November, you'd be looking to start provisioning your first customers on phase 1. And it would follow for the same phase 2, phase 3 as well.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions?
I do. It's Kelly. I wondered if Jackie and the marketing and customer service sort of experts on the call have been looped in to identify an initial communication strategy around launch and ongoing communication.
Yeah, so the intent as we start to complete, as they said, it's going to be rolling through phase 1. The only ones that are complete with phase 1C, we can start communicating that fiber is available in the area. In terms of how we do that, I think it's dependent on how quickly we're able to do installations and the manpower that we have available. We don't want to push it out too quickly and have just an absolute crush of people wanting to get on and create extended lag times where we have real long wait lists of people. So we're gonna try and collaborate with Joel and his team to make sure that we're doing it in a way that doesn't set us up for failure on that end. In terms of the communication, exact messaging, I mean, to be determined. You know, we've got a lot of great examples out there from other cable operators, how they've pushed the messaging. We've got some early messaging going out right now or in the next couple of weeks to some very targeted customers within nodes 27 and 28, as I mentioned in the operating brief this month. So we're going to kind of test early on how that works and what kind of uptake we have on that. So absolutely, we are going to put a plan together, and it's going to be a collaborative plan between departments within SELCO as well. It's not just going to be running wild.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yep, no problem.
Any other questions from any other board members? Hearing none, are there any staff members who want to ask any questions or have any statements towards this effort?
Bob, I have only one related that's a sub-bullet point on the agenda. And what I'm looking for is a recommendation from the commission. If you recall, when we did the budgets in December, we mentioned this project would be a major priority for 2020. However, we had not had a estimated cost because we were in the middle of design progress with Matrix. So part of this presentation, I drafted a memo to you with the assistance of Joelle. And what we're looking for is phase 1A, we estimate the cost of the labor around $350,000 in total, with the materials around $1 million. And phase 1B through the end of calendar year 2020, we estimate the need for another $3 million. So what I'm requesting is a vote by the commission to recommend that $4 million be added to the fiber to the premise or fiber to the home design budget, project number JM060, that was previously approved in the 2020 budget, at least that design portion. And we had $275,000 for the design. What I'm asking you to do is amend that by adding $4 million for this first phase A1 and or 1A and 1B in 2020.
Do I have a motion from the board to add the additional $4 million to the fiber to the home project?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we add that $4 million.
Okay, Tony, thank you. Do I have a second?
A second.
Mike, thank you. We have a second. We have to take a roll call vote. So all in favor of the proposal to add on $4 million to the fiber to the home design efforts of phases, what, 1A and B, Michael?
Yeah, 1A and 1B, or a portion of 1B that will be completed in calendar year
And to
2020.
calendar year 2020.
Just a question, sorry.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I understand what's the source of the money? It's funds that are in a general account right now that are then being transferred or allocated for these purposes?
Yeah, it's in the general cash, Mike, and a portion will come from the so-called construction fund that we had been putting money into in anticipation of this project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll take a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Trippy,
Yes.
Ms. Marshall,
Yes.
Ms. Lemieux,
Yes.
and Mr. Ruffolo.
Yes.
And Mr. Holland is yes. So 5 vote in favor. Michael, we authorize the $4 million.
Thank you.
Okay, that I think we need to, as we secure from this agenda item, we need to fall back to the audit presentation. Mr. Goulet, do we have you but before we go, I'd like to thank the Zach and Matt for the presentation, and thank you for taking the time and waiting out our surprise to Michael. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen. Zach and Matt, if you can take your slides down, that would help.
Yes. Cool.
Hi, Mr. Goulet. We have you on now? Oh, no. Still don't have him. Okay. While we're working that, I'm going to go to the next item, which is a review and to consider approval. Mr. Goulet, whenever you think you're ready, just give us a test, and because we're going to be just going through the warrants right now. We have a stack of warrants that if all the board members have had an opportunity to review all the warrants. I'll ask first, do any of the board members have any questions on any of the warrants that we are about to approve? Not hearing any. I will go for a motion to accept the warrants as presented, and I will sign it also with the provision that I will be the sole person that will actually sign the warrants to make that all happen.
So moved. we accept the warrants.
I'm getting feedback. Shut it off.
No, not me. Okay, so we have a.
Can
we
you hear
have
me
a-
now? That's me.
Oh, yes, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
I called in.
Okay, Jim, is that you?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, just 1 second. We'll get through something. I need a second on the motion to accept the
Okay.
warrants.
Second.
Okay, okay, Maria, thank you. And a roll call vote to accept the warrants. Michael?
Ms. Microfola, yes, accept as for warrant regarding Myra O'Connell, for which is a conflict of interest.
Okay, got it. Maria Lemieux?
Yes.
Kelly Marshall?
Yes.
Tony Trippi?
Yes.
And Bob Holland, yes. Okay, so agenda item 4, which are the warrants, is approved. I will sign those for all of us once the meeting is over. With that, now, Jim, you're back online with us, Mr. Goulet? Not hearing anything, Jim. Still not hearing anything.
Adam, can you drive the bus?
Okay. Well, while we're waiting, the next article is to review and consider approval of the minutes of May 13th meeting of 2020. Do we have a motion to accept those? Well, actually, we have, yeah, okay, we'll go one by one. For the minutes of May 13th, 2020. Do I have a motion to accept?
So move, Tony.
Tony?
I'll second.
Mike, okay. All in favor, let the roll call vote. Tony?
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
And Bob Holland, yes. Okay. Moving to the next item is the minutes of April 29th, 2020. Are there any comments on those minutes? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Mike, thank you. And a roll call vote to accept the minutes. Tony?
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Bob, yes. And the next one is to review and consider the approval of the minutes of April 22nd, 2020. Any comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So move, Tony.
Okay, somebody want a second?
A second.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And a roll call vote, Tony?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
And Bob Holland is yes. So all the minutes are approved. Okay, we'll go back. Jim, are we there? Mr. Goulet, do we have any communication? Still hearing none. We'll move to electric cash statements for May 2020.
Hey, this is Mike. Let's talk about the electric cash statement, May 2020. Cash receipts through May totaled 14.9 million. That was 14% lower than last year and about a percentage point less than the budget projection. The expenditures, about 13.5 million, are 23% less than 2019 and 11% less than projection. You'll notice that a new line was added to track COVID expenses. Through May, $18,000 were expended in the electric division, and all of that has been submitted for reimbursement. Total available funds on May 31, 2020 equaled $17,046,215. That balance is 31% greater than 2019 and about 10% more than projected. If you want to get into the deets, we can do that now. that was just an overview.
Okay, so the overall effects of why things changed, Mike, but mostly laced in the feed of COVID.
Oh, no, that was only 18,
Yeah, I
18
know it.
there. But if we're talking about the major differences, we're more about some of it is salary, and where there's about 3% difference there. We also in budgeting the expenditures, where some of it is loaded in the fourth quarter. We spread it throughout the year, cash basis, so we might be a little behind on that, and we'll catch up on that as the year progresses.
Mike,
Okay,
who is going to reimburse us for these $18,000 COVID?
The Fed. Oh, you want to take it, Mike? Go ahead.
Yeah, the town is eligible for $3.7 million in reimbursement under the CARES Act.
Okay.
And it has been determined that SELCO is eligible for a portion of that. So the town, the school, and SELCO have hired, or mostly Kevin in the town manager's office, has hired a woman to coordinate CARES Act reimbursements, and we're part of that process.
Good. Yeah. Any of the board members have any other questions about the May 2020 cash statement?
Yeah, this is Michael Follow. I just was wondering, under cash receipts, the last line, it says 2 dates, receipts have not come close to budget numbers. Can you amplify or describe what you mean, or say why?
Sure. We're not talking about revenue receipts per se. Well, we're talking electric here. I see total cash receipts only off 1.2% of budget. So.
Mike,
Yeah, it might be,
Mike, are you talking about, is it just the miscellaneous cash receipts?
yes, that's what I'm referring to on that one. Not the overall cash receipts. So
Okay.
miscellaneous cash receipts are under by about 652,000. They're not predictable, and again, they could be back end loaded in looking into the end of the year.
And what constitutes miscellaneous? I mean, that seems like a large number, or was, or budgeted. What's in the bucket of miscellaneous?
It's on the electric side. It's things like we get transmission payments in, credits, if you will, checks come in like that. Does not include stuff due from other departments. That's a totally different animal there. But primarily, it's about the receipts that we get. Like when we get reimbursed for COVID, it's coming in through there. We've done some work for the state in they call it force account, where we've done some work and anticipate reimbursement for that. That's also part of there. So it can be some big dollars coming in for projects that we're working on and expecting to be reimbursed for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mike, I just have a quick question in regards to the COVID expenses that get reimbursed. Does this include cleaning and PPE?
Yes.
Yes, it does. The only thing we found out about well, it's more on the cable side of things, so I'll get into it when we discuss that in the COVID.
Okay, any other questions from board members on the cash statement? If not, do I have a motion to accept the May 2020 cash statement?
Yes, I'll make a motion to accept, Tony.
Tony, okay, second?
I'll second.
Mike, okay. Roll call vote for to accept the May 2020 cash statements. Tony,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Bob, yes. Okay. Okay, well, it seems that, Mr. Goulet, how we doing? Not hearing you.
I move we accept the offer.
I know, we've all seen it. Okay, I'm gonna have us go and finish off on the cable cash statements, because I'm not hearing anything from Mr. Goulet. Okay, so Mike,
Okay, I'm here.
yep, why
I
don't you
was,
go ahead and do the cash statement?
Okay, will do. Cable cash, May 2020. Year-to-date cash receipts, about 8.9 million, are a percentage point less than 2019 and 3 percentage points below forecast. Just a note on that, Signal subscribers are down 338 subs through May. On the expenditure side, overall expenditures of 6.3 million were 4.5% less than 2019 and a percentage point less than budgeted expenditures. In looking at the COVID line, there were expenditures to be reimbursed again of $130,000, and a large part of that had to do with equipment or materials needed to upgrade some nodes in the infrastructure, so our customers could have adequate internet connections, broadband connections, given that many students and employees were working from home. So it became necessary to make that a little more robust. What I was going to get to is that we had some of our own payroll involved in those upgrades. What we found out was the only salary type expenditures that are reimbursable in with COVID are first responder salary. So we had to give that one a pass. I want to say it was probably, I don't know, about $8,000 or something that we had to take a pass on with that. Total available funds at May 31, 2020, total 29.2 million. That's about 20% better than 2019 and on track with forecast. Again, we can get as far into the details as you would like now.
I would just like to add, Mr. Chairman, that of that balance, that it's important to note, and we continue to note almost monthly at these meetings, that 2/3 of that are reserved for the fiber to the home project. So that number will diminish significantly over the course of this project.
Right, and then the electric side, we have a certain portion that's reserved to pay 6 months of all of the wholesale power supply that we would have to procure too. So those are all large numbers that make it look like we're have a lot of liquid available funds, but in fact are pretty well dedicated and assigned for future usage. Okay, do any of the board members have any further questions for Mr. Quattadamo? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the May 2020 cable cash statement?
Yes, I move that we accept those cash statements.
Okay. A second?
Second.
Okay, right, okay, and roll call to vote to accept the May 2020 cable cash statement. Tony?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Bob, yes. Okay, so those are accepted. Stacy, are we having any success?
Hi guys, how you doing?
Great.
Great. Okay, I just got off the phone with Adam, and I'm not quite sure what's happening because he was trying to jump in for Jim, but none of us were hearing him. He said the first time he called in, it was great, and we knew that. We could all hear him. And
Can you hear me now, Stacy?
Oh, yeah,
hello?
well,
Oh, is
yeah.
this
Hello?
Jim? Hi, Jim.
This is
That's
Jim.
Jim. Yeah.
I've dialed in on the phone for about the fourth, fifth time, and I'm happy to be here now.
Okay.
We're happy to have
stay
you.
with it. All right.
Okay, Jim, we'll turn the show over to you to provide the background on the audits that conducted.
Okay, very good. Thank you, and thank you again for allowing us to provide the audit service for your department. You're a wonderful client, and I'd like to shout out to Mike to say thank you also before your retirement days for all the support and help you've given us in this process. So it's been great working with you, and we wish you the best.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. So if I start with the electric department, and I'm just going to give highlights, I think, at this stage of the game to highlight, how the audit went and what the financial condition of the departments are. So the most important role that we take is to issue the independent auditor's report. And I'm very pleased to say in both the electric and cable that the reports have an unqualified, sometimes called a clean opinion. So that's good news. It's unfortunately not always the case because some departments who are in a county retirement system don't have the proper information for the footnotes. So you're in great shape because you're your own retirement system. The next section of both reports is a management discussion analysis. And while we don't audit that, we do look at the numbers, make sure they coincide with our audit report, and they certainly do. And I probably said this before to you, if you have a constituent who's saying what's going on in the light department or the cable division, the management discussion analysis is really the layman's discussion of what's going on in very good terms and in very good highlighted information. But since we don't really audit that, I'll start the discussion on page 8 of, if you have the report in front of you, that's the statement of net position of the department. And I think in the industry overall, as you probably know, we do several departments. This year, I think the word is consistency. A little bit of uptake in profits. There was a lot of control. The purchase power costs were good. Kilowatt hours, I noticed were down a little bit, so revenue may be down, but the cost of power would also be down in that relation. So it was a pretty good year. No surprises, no unusual events that came to my attention. So your current assets, which would be the assets to be used in the normal operating cycle of 1 year, is up from 12.3 million to 15.2 million. So that's a good, healthy increase, mostly in your operating fund account. The non-current assets would be, non-current, such as depreciation, construction fund, power cost reserves, pooled financing reserve, your rate stabilization reserve, to mention a few of the major accounts. They really went up or stayed about the same, not much of a change in that. The major asset on the balance sheet, of course, on the statement of position is your plant. Your net depreciated plant is just under 40 million, up from just under 38 million last year. So you've been increasing your plant, and that's net of depreciation for the year. The deferred outflows, there's deferred outflows on the asset side and deferred inflows on the other side. These are just timing issues for the most part, related to OPEB and the pension. So there's a lot of differences are going to happen every year with the actual assumptions. So it might vary from one year to the next. So those assumptions and the effect of those are going to be spread out over 5 years. So you're not taking a big hit in any 1 year from those events. But again, in your case, you're well funded in both areas, so that there's very little impact. On the liability side, you really don't have a lot of liabilities. Your current liabilities are 3.2 million, just about the same as last year. For the most part, that's your current portion of your financing, your bonds and pooled financing loans, and probably your December power bill is in there. And that's not very much in terms of current liabilities. If we look at the ratio of current assets to current liabilities, would be about 8-to-1. So that's very good. Non-current liabilities, that would be the balance of your bond, and the pooled financing loans about $12 million. And then you've got your OPEB liability, which is fairly insignificant, $967,000, and then the pension liability, only $425,000. So financially, very good shape. The deferred inflows on the liability side, again, other than OPEB and pensions, which not very much, is your rate stabilization reserve account. So again, this is money you've set aside for specific, to use for future rate stabilization or unexpected costs that may come to your attention that you can use that money for. So that's a very special reserve. It's adequately funded, I think. Net position, which is the difference between assets and liabilities, is 44 million, up from 40 million last year. And the bulk of the largest part of that, again, is your capital assets, 26 million, up from 23 million. So total assets liabilities, 67.8 million, up from 64.9 million. Operating revenues and expenses, and I'm seeing this pretty much everywhere. The revenue was fairly stable. If anything, slight decrease. Yours was almost the same number, 32.2 million. Operations, maintenance, and depreciation expenses went down actually from 30.8 million to 27.9. So your operating profit was a little bit higher than last year, 1.5 million last year and 4.5 million this year. So a healthy increase, perhaps because costs are being controlled well, and I think power costs were stable. Other miscellaneous items of interest expense, interest income brings that net profit down to 4.1 million. The only other expense, which is really a below the line expense, is your payment in lieu of taxes to town of Shrewsbury, and it was a consistent number, 240,000, both 18 and 19. Statement of cash flows really is broken into various components of what we do. So the major activity we do is run your department, sell electricity, pay your power bills. That generated 6.3 million of positive cash flow. Remember, this is cash basis, not accrual, so it has nothing to do with profit, it's just tracking cash. Financing activities, additions to plant. We talked about your plant went up. That was 2.7 million. And then you paid down some principal on all your debt. Investing activities was insignificant. So overall, while in 2018 there was a reduction of cash of 971,000, the increase this year was about almost 2.5 million. Okay, and the cash accounts that make up this calculation, because again, restricted accounts wouldn't commit to this. It would be your operating fund, your construction fund, and your power cost adjustment fund, totaling 12.3 million. The next section of the report that I'm looking at on page 13, if you have it there, is your OPEB trust fund, which is sort of a standalone financial statement of its own. And if you recall, at December 31st, 2018, we were probably all wondering what's going to happen with the market. It had been way down at December 31st. So at December 31st, 2019, the market was in very good shape. So we recovered a lot of the losses in the market. Not that you have a lot of money at risk in the market. You're not buying risky investments. But it did show an increase. Contributions this year were 113,600. The net investment income was 225,000, up from a loss of 71,018. So your fiduciary net position is 1.3 million. I'm sorry, it began with 1.3 million. It's now up to just under 1.7 million. So that's very healthy, and you are nearly all funded in that department. That brings us to the footnotes, which go on for many, many pages. I'm going to be flipping through the pages until I come to something of interest or something certainly different. You read the footnotes, note one are all the accounting policies. No changes there this year. Funds of Denmark is nothing new. Our power supply agent, they handle your working capital, stabilization fund, and the capacity fund. Risk, we're not too concerned about. Accounts receivable is being maintained at 2.5 million. So the reserve for doubtful accounts stayed at 113,000. So it's stable. There aren't a lot of accounts getting out of control from what it looks like. Other accounts receivable, not much going on there. We talked about energy conservation loans, investment in NIH. So on page 20, if you have it, is the plant, the summary of the plant, which is really a great snapshot by FERC account of the additions to the plant. And then the bottom section is the depreciation of the plant. And the next section tells us that our net capital assets is 26.3 million, which is the cost of plant minus depreciation minus the debt service that's outstanding, which is total 13.5 million. And we still have a 26 million positive. Note 11 talks about the pool financing loans, all the aspects of that, and the schedule of the payments that are due on that going out many years. There's a general obligation bond of $4.5 million. There's also a schedule on that showing the $300,000 principal and interest payment due each year for the next 5 years and then 5-year increments after that. Note 13 is the pension plan. Footnote goes on quite a bit. Usually what I like to look at that one is one of the factors in the pension, the actual factors is the current discount rate. Now it's presently it's set at 7.5%. And if you're looking on page 27 in the middle of the page, it shows that our current discount rate obligation with a current discount rate is $425,000, which is fairly insignificant. But a 1% increase in the rate would make us fully paid up, having a slight surplus. But a 1% decrease would bring us to about $1 million deficit. So it's interesting to see what 1% can do to you. Let's see. OPEB, there's a similar lengthy footnote for OPEB. And in the OPEB, the interesting thing there are two analyses of that, of the discount rate. One is the discount rate from 7.5 in your liability now is 967. If it went a 1% increase, it would go down by 849. A 1% decrease, 1.1 million. Not significant. But if you look at the cost of healthcare, which is built into the assumptions, if that went up or down 1%, it's a little more significant in terms of a change. That's on page 31. It goes from 967 to 827 down, or 1.1 million going up. I know I'm going quickly, trying to save some time, and I know you probably had a chance to read these over. I don't want to bore you with the stuff you know. On page 36, note 20, under commitments and contingencies, is a very interesting footnote, or I think it's a great footnote about Berkshire Wind Cooperative Bank. It shows you your share of the liability on that, and I think that's been a success story from what I've heard all the way around. On the subsequent events, which is generally the last footnote before the required supplementary information, this footnote basically usually says nothing came to our attention that requires our comment. And the exception this year is that because the markets have declined substantially, and remember this was back in February, March, and April when the decline was so substantial. We're just saying we don't know what the effect will be on the money you have invested in OPEB or anywhere for that matter, because of the change in market conditions. As we know and we see every day, they're going up and down all the time, so we can't predict. The next section of the report are required supplementary information, and this is just a lot more detail about OPEB and pension. Just disclosures are required on these financial statements and the new GASBs. That brings us to the final schedules on the electric side that show the detail in more detail, the statement of revenues broken down by class, customer class, residential, commercial, industrial. You can see the changes from last year are almost insignificant. Street lighting, even street lighting municipal, were very, very close. And then there was another page of kilowatt hours, which indicate they were down about 9 million kilowatt hours for the year. And the final pages are the detail of the FERC accounts that break down all the operating expenses and maintenance for your pleasure to take a look at those. Any questions on the electric side before I move to cable?
Any board members have a question? Any staff? If not, let's go to move on. Cable.
Okay. So the cable department, a little simpler, but in the overall consistency, again, is the word. Clean opinion, of course. But the department, especially in this industry, is very strong financially. When I heard the discussion about the Matrix project that's coming up there and spending $4 million, you voted to. I'm looking at the operating cash account is very healthy, 26.7 million, up from 22.1 million. So it's in very good shape financially. It has, in addition to the cash and receivable accounts of about 28 million, it has 14.5 million in net cost of plant after depreciation. So total assets, 44 million, up from 40 million last year. Liabilities, again, your December bills come up to about 1.2 million. And you've got some small liabilities on the OPEB and pension. But overall, your total net position invested in capital is 14.5 million, and unrestricted 27.1 million. So 41 million net position is your assets minus your liabilities. So it's in very good shape financially. From the operating revenue standpoint, your revenue again was just down only slightly from last year. 21.3 million versus 21.6 million last year. Operating expenses went down by about the same amount of money. So your net profit was very similar. Last year's 4.8 million, this year $5,030,000. Then there were some write-offs of some equipment that became obsolete. I'm saying we want to clean up that depreciation schedule if the things have been taken out of service. Let's take them off the books. So that was $1.3 million this year. Healthy hit to the net income. So net income, bottom line, 3.7 million, down from 4.8 million, but that's with that equipment write-off. All right, so the statement of cash flows from the operating standpoint, the operating activities of the department very strong, 7.3 million. There was some intercompany repayments of 73,000. Additions to plant under the capital section, $2 million. And then there was a payment to Shrewsbury Media for $721,000, which goes through as an expense. So net increase in cash, very simple last year, 4.6 million. Last year was 4.9 million. And the cash account that makes that up is only one account. It's the fund for the general operations account, 26.7 million. In the OPEB side, the balance for the cable side is 1.1 million. Contributions were 12,000 this year. In investment income, again, much better than last year, 158,000, up from a loss of almost 50,000 last year. So your net position went from just under a million to almost $1,163,000. So again, very healthy, and your liability is not very significant compared to other departments, and I'm certainly sure other towns and cities. All right, so that brings us to the footnotes. Nothing new with accounting policies. Page 16 has the capital structure again with the assets acquired, and then the depreciation deductions, and also the decrease would show the dispositions we just talked about. Net investment in capital assets would be just the cost minus the depreciation because there's no debt service on the side of on the cable department. I did not mention before in terms of investments within the cable or the pension. They're all level one, which is easily to determine the value, so there's nothing risky. That's a good thing in terms of managing the funds in any investments we have. All level one. The OPEB liability on the side is only $263,000. The liability is 1.4 million, but you've invested all but 263,000. And the market helped with that last year. 1% increase or decrease is because you're so much almost fully funded that those numbers are not very significant. Won't even mention those. Deferred outflows is the same concept of a 5-year spread for any major changes in the assumptions. And there's a lot of description of all that and how that all works. Commitments and contingencies under note 11, it talks about your obligation to buy signal purchase contract. And it's going to go down rapidly every year to 8 million in 2020, 5 million in 2021, and it goes down to 2.5 and almost goes down. Let's see. Risk management, you're a member of the self-insurance trust. I mentioned that on both sides. That's a very good plan. It gives you excellent coverage for anything unforeseen. On the subsequent event, same footnote as the electric side. We're not sure what the market's going to do. When I talked about the required supplementary information, and one was pension, one was the OPEB. These are going to give you a 10-year history eventually. I think next year will be a sideways schedule because we have 5 years, so it's going to be going up 10 years. Not so you can read it, but it's there. And the final section again breaks down your your income and expenses by detailed code for the accounting functions. I have one other report before we get to any other questions. The internal control report. I'm very pleased. It's just a few pages. There's only one page of comment. In the comment that we have for every department, pretty much is the drafting of the financial statements. We talk about every year. It's not a big deal. We assist in that, but your department reviews these drafts before they go out. So if there's something we would have missed, you would likely catch any deficiencies there. But it's perceived by the AICPA to be a deficiency. You know, I don't agree with it. But the good news, the very good news, is that there are no other comments in the prior comments last year. We had to do materials, supplies, and inventory. That has been removed because what the deficiencies have been corrected in that department. So that's good news. So really, no internal control issues at all to be concerned about. I know I talked quickly and probably missed half the good stuff, but I don't want to take all plenty of time. So any questions or things you want to revisit?
Jim, just to follow up on that, this is Michael Hale. I'd like to thank Stacy, Joelle, John Laverty, and many others who are involved in improving that inventory issue, especially thankful to Sean Walker, a new employee who works at the service area, who took the issue on and made vast improvements in both the physical plant and the procedures in which we are operating under.
Thank you. That certainly came to our attention. So that's a great shout out to those folks who are very helpful in that area. We don't want any deficiencies, we can help it.
Any board members have any comments?
Just a question for me. Is there anything in the management rep letters that you had signed that was an exception or was unusual from prior years?
Adam, are you on? Nope, I guess not. I didn't see it, to be honest with you. I would have to get back to you on that with Tracy. Unfortunately, Tracy had some medical issues this week. It's not available. She would have helped me out with this. So let me get back to you on that one. I'm sorry. Nothing came to my attention, because usually I hear about anything that, any deficiencies or anything that anyone's concerned about. So I don't believe there are any major adjustments to the books or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you. My second question is on the internal controls. Are there any recommendations that you made?
No, there was nothing. It was not being done correctly. No, nothing at all.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Mike. Mike Ruffalo?
Yeah, Mike Ruffalo.
Hi, I'm sorry, I said your name wrong.
Okay.
It was clean that we received, that Michael Hale signed. I just looked it up for you.
On both the cable and electric side, you received a clean management rep letter, no exceptions, no deviations from prior years.
No deviations. If I'm allowed, could I just mention one thing on the cable side?
Go ahead, Stacy.
Okay, I know Jim had highlighted on the point that on the cable side, we had a $1.3 million loss on disposal. In the management discussion and analysis, Mike Quidadamo and I went into a little bit of detail on that, not a lot, but I wanted you to know that because I feel that's a very big number, that mainly had to do, for the most part, with the disposal of Shrewsbury Media Cable. It wasn't only their fixed assets, but we also gave them back $815,000 and a little bit more in cash that was theirs. It was all part of the deal. It was just happened that 2019 was the year it fell out. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's all.
No, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself.
Okay.
I appreciate that clarification, Stacy. Thank you.
Any
I
other
guess I
board
do.
members?
Sorry, I guess I do have a final question. Can you just explain, whether it's internal controls or otherwise, what kind of spot testing you do for files and payments, or what that process looks like?
So when they come in to do the interim work, which begins in the fall, in late fall, November, December, and it follows through January, they look at every balance sheet account, and we do testing we'll look for example, in the inventory section, we'll go out and actually do the test counts and then compare them to the final report. We sent confirmations to various customers to confirm their account balances. We confirmed cash with the town, make sure that their records are agree with the department's records. We look at personnel policies to see if there's anything fall there and make sure we pick up any accruals for accrued vacation pay and other liabilities. So it's really almost every balance sheet account has some procedure, some policy that we do. We even with the additions to plant, we may go out and inspect an additions plant or look at the invoices, especially if they're over a certain dollar amount. Every audit has a certain threshold dollar amount that's called materiality, and so we look at most transactions that exceed that. So it's pretty much every account on the balance sheet that has some asset and some income. On the income side, income and expenses, we also will do testing for employee benefits and pension expense. It random. It's not the same everywhere. You try to shake it up a little bit and change the accounts that we take a look at, just to make sure we have good coverage every year.
Terrific. Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you.
If there are no other questions from any other board members, I think we don't need a vote to accept the. We have received the report, so I think we can consider this completed. Correction, Michael?
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, Jim and Adam, you may be out there and we just can't hear you. But Jim, I'd like to appreciate your report and your diligence of trying to stay with us this afternoon in this challenging internet environment that we're trying to operate on. So we appreciate you giving the report.
Well, I think I found out what the answer is. I don't live in Shrewsbury. I live in Boylston. So I'm going to blame Charter.
Okay, good. Put that in their audit report. Okay. Well.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right.
Look forward to
seeing
you
folks.
next
All
year.
right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks. We've completed through agenda items through 9. The next one is review and consider approving the operating brief. Michael, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just touch on some highlights on the construction side. We're finishing up a significant amount of work up by the 140-290 bridge location, both on the cable and the electric side. John Laverty is coordinating that work with Joelle, and for the first time, we had both electric and cable field staff working in coordination on each other's section. So it was a good cooperative effort during this COVID period. I'll shout out again to Joelle, his field staff, the head end, and the customer service people on getting the node congestion issues resolved in 8 or 9 of the nodes. This work will likely continue into the summer and fall. If people continue to work from home, we will need to make further adjustments in other neighborhoods. I think it's worth pointing out, and there were some questions on social media about fiber being ready and people getting cards in the mail about fiber. Yes, we have started to deploy fiber. I think it's important that the commission know, and I think Jackie addressed this matter via Kelly's question earlier in this meeting. It's very small areas of town that we ourselves have built fiber in certain neighborhoods, and we are target marketing those neighborhoods to see if they want to convert to fiber. So on that front, we will be the ones reaching out to the customers when their area is ready for the conversion. And we ask for patience from everyone, but again, this is going to be a 3 to 5 year process, and Jackie and her team will be getting the word out when it's available in each section of the community. Also on the marketing front, I think it's worth pointing out that Jackie and our online bill payment vendor have a little sweepstakes going on through August 31st for people who sign up for automatic pay through the online portal. they'll be giving out an iPad mini for those people who do a transfer from the paper bill to that process over the course of the next 2 months. And kudos, I'd also like to mention kudos to Jackie and Rick during this COVID period. They were able to coordinate with the business community in both the town center and the Lakeway Business District. I don't know if you've seen it, but they've put together a couple commercials that we are co-marketing with those 2 different business districts. And I think they're of a high quality and something that you would see on a typical broadcast channel in the Boston area. So kudos to them for getting that done under these difficult circumstances. The last thing in the operating brief that I'd like to point out is that we did get another chunk of funds for those residential customers who are interested in our solar program. We had run short on the funding. The state has committed an additional sum of money to SELCO, and we think we probably have enough funds for another 5 to 6 residential installations for those who are listening who might be interested in the process. All the information is available online. And if I'm wrong with that, Jackie or Ralph, please tell me, but that's my calculation, is that there's probably enough funding for another 5 or 6 installations.
Michael, do we have anybody that was like in a waiting list that we had run out of funds and maybe they were already, they say, shovel ready?
I would defer that to Jackie.
We did initially, as funds were dwindling down, Ralph and I had put into place a waiting list where people would apply and kind of pick a number. And Ralph, as he was going through the approval process, he was checking in with MWIC to see how much funding was available, reaching out to those customers to move them through the process. I don't believe there's anybody on a wait list at this time. With the release of the additional funding, we're back to accepting applications and running them through the process one-to-one. If we get down to a limited amount of funds and we have a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak, we'll put up messaging on that front again, just to kind of make sure people know what they're getting into. We don't want folks to commit to something basing their decision on receiving funds that may or may not be available. So we want to just be clear with customers on that.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. Michael, anything else?
That's all I had on the operating brief, unless others had questions from other items.
First off, any board members have any questions of Michael on the operating brief? And hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the operating brief as presented?
Yes, I move we accept the operating brief.
Tony, second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, and roll call vote to accept. Tony?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Bob is yes. Okay, so moved. Finally, there's a general update, COVID-19 emergency operation. Michael, is there anything that you wanted to, I think we kind of discussed that, but go ahead.
On two fronts. At the service area, everyone has returned to work. All 26 to 28 people who work on out of the municipal drive facility. We have taken additional precautions. We have procured additional protective equipment for the workers. We've staggered the workday. Half of the folks come in at 6 a.m. and work, and the other half come in at 7 a.m. and work, so that they're not crossing paths. We've closed the lunchroom. We have the workforce is working taking their lunch in the field and not returning to the congregate lunchroom that we have available to them. It's kind of sad because I think that does that setting provides team building and camaraderie amongst the workforce, but we took that precaution to keep them as separated as possible. We are taking additional precautions in the field, and it continues to be a work in progress. In terms of the town hall, we are about 25% of our 18 workers, or 22 workers if you count IT, which comes under SELCO. About 25% in a given week have been coming back to the building on a rotating basis. All of them will have rotated through for a week at a time by the end of June. And then we will coordinate with the town, whoever the town hall is going, when and if the town hall is going to reopen to the public. We will be in lockstep with them in terms of the date and whether or not we will bring more workers back into the office setting. We have taking precautions here. We have the plexiglass shields, and we have a number of hand sanitizers now installed on various areas throughout the office area. And we have, again, the lunchroom will be closed in the town hall as well. So we're taking the precautions, and it continues to be a work in progress. And thankfully, we have avoided any significant health issues.
Well, thank you, Michael. I guess the final agenda item is probably most important one, a very important one, and that's review and consider approval of the general manager's salary recommendations. All board members have already been provided all the background information and all the proposed salary recommendations that Michael has in place. And Michael, if you'd care to give a kind of a concise, outlook or overview of this thing, that I think then we'll give it a motion to approve the salaries.
Sure. In the 9 or 10 years that I've been doing this, this clearly has been the most difficult one for me to put forward and recommend to the commission. Just as a matter of background, what goes into the analysis is I survey 8 of our peer communities who have municipal utilities of like size to see what they're doing with their both union workforce and their non-union groups. I take a survey of the 41 municipal electric utilities in Massachusetts that conducted each October on key benchmark positions to measure where we are on those key positions vis-a-vis our peers. I take a look at the CPI for the last 4 to 5 years to see where that lands. And then I always engage in fairly detailed discussions with the town manager on his budget impact and his budget and its impact on his ability to increase salaries for his workforce. So this was a true balancing act between acknowledging the significant financial constraints of the town while also maintaining a competitive, keeping up with where our peer groups are and what they are presenting in terms of salary adjustments to their workforce. I do not want to fall behind our peer groups. It's always been my strategy to be at the median or slightly above of where our peer groups are. And I think that leads to us being able to hire and retain a very strong workforce. So when it all ended, I am recommending a salary increase this year, effective July 1. It is approximately 1.5 percentage points below what it was last year. And I also have a need to address an issue at the very lower end of our salary scale for those positions in the entry level vis-a-vis where they are compared to those in the entry level positions within the building on the town side. So there's a rather significant adjustment on the lower end in the customer service area. So with that, again, it's about 1.5% greater than last year. And in the aggregate, it represents a total of approximately $78,000 for about 38 employees.
So my understanding, Michael, is we're going from about a 4.3% pay raise last year to a 2.8% overall for the workforce. And mostly the money that's targeted is to the people, we found out, as most people across the industries have found out, that the most essential workers are usually the lowest paid ones, the ones that do the interface with the workers, and those were our customer service representatives, who we need to bring their salaries up to be in a competitive position. Is it kind of a summary of what we've come down
Yeah,
with?
and that would be it in a nutshell. And in addition, I am recommending, then this is not a budgeted item, but I am recommending the creation of a GIS technician / sustainability coordinator to fall under the assistant engineer. We have a great need for a GIS type person from a digital record keeping perspective, both on the electric side in terms of the distribution system, but now more prevalently on the cable side. As we build out this cable plant, we want to make sure that as it's built, we have the best records available for those in the field to assist in troubleshooting when there are issues.
Great, and this is really spinning off what was once a collateral duty that's now become a full-time job for an individual, that we can get the right title and get the right focus on it.
And we feel we have the right person who's been an intern for us for over 2.5 years, and he has a master's degree already. And so he would be the perfect fit for the culture.
Okay, and any of the commissioners have any questions on the salary inputs, or anything that has anything remotely to do with the personnel issues right now, while we have Michael available? I'll do a roll on that one. Michael, do you have any questions for Mike? Or Michael, or Mike, do you have any questions for Michael? There we go. Sorry? None? Okay, Marie?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, Kelly?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, and Tony?
No questions.
Okay, can we have a motion to consider the approval of the general manager's salary recommendations as provided?
All right, so move.
Okay.
Tony.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mike. Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote on the approval of the general manager's salary recommendations as discussed and provided to all hands. Tony?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Okay, and Bob is yes. So unanimously, those salary promotions are accepted. I think that wraps up the open session that we have scheduled for today. Long enough, but it was well worth it to roast Michael for this final time. But we're gonna go. We'll need to do a roll call vote to close this meeting, and then and also to go into executive session, not to return it back into open session. And that's mostly to review executive session minutes from the past. We've had several executive sessions that we've had during the selection process for Michael's relief that we need to at least prove those minutes for those meetings. So we have to do that in executive session. Mike, anything to add before I ask for a?
Yeah, no, only the other executive session item is I just want to give you a quick briefing on an issue that could impact collective bargaining with the union group, and discussions I have been entered into with them.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so let's see, it's a roll call vote to close this meeting at time 17:53 or 5:53, and to roll into executive session, not to return to open session. Do I have a motion for that move?
So move that we do that.
Okay, Tony, it's a second.
Second.
Okay, and roll call on that would be Tony?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Mike?
Microphone, yes.
Yeah, Mike and Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay, and Bob. Okay, so it's the time is 17:53, and this meeting is closed, and everyone is reminded that it's a phone-in executive session. Thank you.
Not to reconvene.
Not to return to open session. Thank you.